Hello, and welcome to the Argyle HR Leadership Forum Talent Innovation 2024. My name is Nick with Argyle, and it's great to have everyone joining us today. I have some important information to share with you, and then we'll turn the floor over to our esteemed opening keynote speaker. First, we would like to take a moment to thank today's sponsors, GP and iSIMS. Our sponsors are committed to providing you with valuable content and a great overall experience. At any time during today's event, you can visit their virtual booths from the main agenda page, which include complimentary materials, information, and meet and greet opportunities. We also welcome you to stay socially connected during today's event. For those of you who are active on social media, please use the hashtag Argyle Digital and follow us at Argyle Exec Forum. I would like to take a moment to touch on our content neutrality policy, which we have curated based on the feedback we have received over the years from our members. We have worked closely with our speaking faculty to ensure that you receive a set of balanced and neutral viewpoints during today's session, and we appreciate our members' support of this policy. Finally, and most importantly, we want to hear from you. So during each session, we encourage you to submit your questions and comments in the Q&A box on your screen. Thank you again for joining us today. Now, let's get started. Without further ado, I would like to introduce Wagner Danuzzo. Wagner is the author of Leading to Succeed, Essential Skills for the New Workplace, as well as a leadership coach and advisor. We're super excited to have Wagner for his opening keynote presentation titled Digital Learning and Development, Investing in Employees for Growth. Welcome, Wagner. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Nick. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. I'm very excited to do this. And I made the conscious decision not to show you slides. In my research, my studies that I do, I explore a lot how people create the conditions to learn. And one thing that I find over and over is that people are a little distracted. They are having a hard time focusing on learning, and they are having a hard time knowing what's expected of them. In fact, 47% of survey respondents for the APA, the Association for Psychology, American Psychology Association, said that they don't really know what's expected of them. So let's start there. What I want to talk about is what I have discovered about the digital world, the development world focused on the employee experience, and how we can make this be exponentially beneficial for all of us, for our customers, for our stakeholders, and everyone else. So let's focus on the context first. People are talking a lot about the lack of connection that they are feeling in this hybrid world. But let's talk about what is the characteristics of the workforce. So I created the 5 Ds of the new workforce. They are distributed. No matter if you chose to have a hybrid work arrangement or co-location or fully remote, the idea is that the organization is becoming an ecosystem. For an enterprise, we are moving into the ecosystem as an organization. So in the ecosystem, you're working with people globally. You're working with people in different locations. Your partners are set up in different locations. So it is a distributed workforce where asynchronous work is happening. So you have to be very adaptive to this new way of working. And they are distributed. The second D is dynamic. They're very dynamic because Korn Ferry just published something about embrace the short term. I love that, embrace the short term. We are so focused on long-term experiences, long-term strategies, long-term everything. However, we are in a world that we must embrace short term. They are thinking, the new workforce is thinking in terms of months, not years. So imagine that implication to HR strategy and talent strategy. It needs to be as dynamic as the workforce. This cross-generational workforce is dynamic because things are evolving very rapidly. So in the first year, onboarding is so important. Second year, you have to show that they made the right decision because you are coming through with the promise of development. And the third year is that shared accountability to raise your hands. I want to become a leader in this company. And the company has to identify those who are willing to move forward in this long term experience with you. So, the third D is digital. The new workforce is digital. No matter how we prepare ourselves for the digital transformation of tomorrow, let's be real, digital transformations are happening in the business since the 2000s. So the digital transformation is actually an ongoing process that's iterative. And most of the generations have been used to adopting new tools, collaborative tools. And I think in learning now, the digital came from the pandemic, but it's becoming very popular to think that Gen AI is here to stay. It's becoming very accepting to think that learning is happening in the flow of work. Learning in the flow of work allows employees to learn and apply when the skills matter the most, which is when they need it. So think about that. And that changes the whole idea of learning programs becoming the essence of learning. Learning becomes a cultural norm of a daily practice of being curious, exploring new ways of doing work, and learning the skills that's needed. But they're also diverse. So it's distributed, dynamic, digital, diverse. The world's becoming even more diverse. The demographics show and the projections shows. So it is a reality. So we need to understand learning in the presence of new ways of adopting tools, new ways in preferences of learning. So you have to think about the personalization of learning as a key ingredient of your success. But the last one is my favorite. And I've been speaking a lot in universities, in newly graduates, and they're feeling the pressure, especially because it's unstructured. I was just talking to a mentee of mine. She's graduating, and she said, Wagner, people don't teach us how to navigate these transitions because this is a major transition from a structural world of school to a non-structure. How do I deal with that? And there are so many emotional impacts of these transitions. So start thinking about this. The last D is for discerning. The new generations, the workforce is very discerning because they have access to transparent data. They have access to data about your own organization, even more than senior leaders sometimes. Social media, they have this clarity about what's happening in the world, and they have the discernment because we're asking them to identify their purpose. So think about that. So all that to say that the world is changing and we need to adopt new ways of helping people learn and develop in the new context. Context is the word. And the other word that I like to emphasize, of course, is the skills. And people are talking about soft skills, not only the specific skills. But let's talk about the skills. Upskilling is very important. So the digital capabilities that are emerging are very helpful because it's giving us the opportunity to understand what's needed for the capabilities of your organization to yield results. So let's think about that. Telemarketplaces is a digital platform where you're giving employees the opportunity to see what are the opportunities in your organization, what are the skills that are emerging as the highest value skills for your strategies. And capabilities is a good way of setting up your strategy for learning and development because we need to move from the programmatic way of looking at learning. Of course, we have transactional work that is about compliance, governance, mandatory training. All this is very important. We need to make it easiest as possible. So self-paced learning is still there and it's going to continue to be there. But those things are table stakes. When you think about creating a learning culture, we've been talking about this for at least 10 years. We are talking about creating an environment where people have agency in how they access learning, how they choose the learning that's most important to them at the moment of learning, and we are able to measure the impact in a much more personalized way. This is how it gets hard because we need to think in terms of voluntary attrition. We need to think in terms of internal mobility. I think is a great measure. When I implemented a telemarketplace in 2019 in a global 50 company, we saw that in 1 year, implementing a telemarketplace well created an increase of 11 percentage points in our internal mobility. That's what you are aiming for. Increased internal mobility through learning and development. And using digital tools is very important to do that. So, telemarketplace is a digital platform that allows you to understand the skills that you have in house. People talk about skills density. It's very important to understand what's the density of skills in your organization, and understand the skills that are going to be required for new openings and new opportunities. Not only that, telemarketplace can be your secret sauce for a culture of engagement with employees, managers, and the business units that are requiring new skills. So now you have at least transparency in how people understand the skills needed. And then you can also talk to leaders and employees about the gig economy, creating this environment where cross-functional teams come together to solve a problem, they are disbanded and they can go to the next. Is a very fluid way of working. And guess what? Learning and development, if you ask me, the leaders in learning and developing have the greatest opportunity to be that connective tissue. Learning becomes a connective tissue because then you can partner with leaders in businesses to understand the learning requirements through capabilities and skills required for that capability to be built, including technology, of course. The learning leader can continuously strategize integrating workforce data, understanding your workforce data and insights. What skills do you have in house? What skills there are the gaps? And organizing upskilling, reskilling based on that. So that's a different presentation, but I think that's really important to integrate the learning and development strategy with HR analytics and workforce knowledge and integrating all HR systems so you know well who you are trying to develop and grow. And the role of the manager cannot be underestimated. Let's talk about that for 1 minute. The manager has to be aware of their role in creating the conditions for coaching on careers, coaching on skills, coaching on well being, and creating the capacity for people to learn. So, if you don't take anything from this, take this one. Clarity creates capacity. We're all complaining that we don't have capacity to learn. We don't have capacity to add one more thing to our days. We cannot stretch the days. We cannot stretch our mental capacity. What we can do is to create clarity. So we create capacity by avoiding all these rumors, gossip, and all this confusion about not knowing where to go, where are we going, what is priority, what's not priority. There's thousands of priorities. So trust me, clarity will create capacity. That's the way you create capacity for people to learn. So the digital transformations has been going on for a long time. Telemarketplace is a new platform that you can explore a lot because then you can give direct access to skills, direct access to learning, recommendations. So I'm a big fan of telemarketplaces when it's done well. Now, one cautionary thing here. Try not to buy the library when you just need a book. Focus on your strategy, focus on the capabilities and the core critical capabilities that gives you the exponential advantage in the markets. Focus on those skills and those capabilities. Don't buy the whole idea of recreating a taxonomy, recreating a job architecture, recreating everything. By the time you start it, you're already outdated. So focus on what's the highest value. So what I'm trying to say is focus on the value creation, and that starts with the business, and learning is in smack in the middle. um Creating the conditions is important, but like I said, digital transformation is not new. AR, VR, simulations, those things are so exciting. Gamification, this has been happening for 10 years now, but the adoption is not fully there. One thing that I keep saying is that you have to prepare your organization for this digital adoption. When I did telemarketplace, before we implemented the platform, we educated people on how important it is to start thinking about your skills as a currency, how important it was to think about your resumes being a skills-based resume, how important it is to have your profile on LinkedIn, how important it is to fill your profile of skills in our telemarketplace when it comes. And then people understood the value of all this. Then you implemented platform. We had 82 to 90% adoption in 1 year with fully completed profiles without being mandatory because people understood the value of having that. So think about all these ecosystems, strategic partnerships, because we have to go back to the idea that it's better for us to focus on curation than creation of learning. And I know this is hard because it changes the whole operating model of learning organizations, but being more focused on curation of learning, really being focused on prioritization, focusing on the ecosystem of partners that are bringing all these capabilities. There's amazing partners. I'm not going to name names because it's not appropriate here, but there are so many incredible minds out there already using Gen AI to help employees to solve for problems at workplace, already helping people understand the skills in a different way. So trust that maybe we don't need to do everything in house. Teams are the new unit of value. So create learning also about team effectiveness. So don't think about learning just about these technical skills. Think about the learning as the connective tissue, as I said. You have to start increasing manager effectiveness, for example. What is the role of the manager in creating this psychological safety and all the digital capabilities that you have might help managers understand how they can guide their employees, especially because now we are asking even employees and managers to focus on their well-being. A lot of apps help you release and reduce anxiety. This is a big important concept. Focusing your people, creating mindful moments, because mindfulness is a decision making capability, helping people focus and be in the moment to learn and retain what they learn is really important. It's not enough to throw learning at people anymore. So the digital capabilities has to start with and there is some AIs that are very empathic now. They said, "Hey, I know you're stressed. Why don't we start with breathing?" And you start with a breathing exercise before a digital learning module starts. That's how you focus people on learning and focusing them on that moment. So the other thing is teams are the new unit of value. So how do you create the complementary skills in a team? This is a little complex, but if you are talking about digital development of our folks, we need to think about how do we create the architecture of a flexible workforce? How do you understand how to compose a team? We are entering the phase of a composable workforce. They come from different sources of talent pools. We are going to start creating a much more fungible organization. And it's important for you to think how do you build cross functional teams and teams based on skills? So the digital capabilities that you apply is not only for learning, it's about learning who are the people who are available for the projects, who are the people who have the skills for the project, who are the people who have complementary skills and are known for having collaborative skills and communication skills and all that. So self-managed teams are really important. For that to happen, though, we need to empower them. For that to happen is what I say in my book, Leading to Succeed. Every single member of the workforce has to lead their career and has to cultivate leadership skills from the beginning of their career because they are self-managing in the workplace. They are managing relationships in teams. They are not there in tech teams. They have to navigate the organization that's becoming very complex. So all this comes to a point where the digital platforms that you use, the development strategies that you use, the HR analytics and workforce insights that you have, the business strategy translating to capabilities, translating to skills and new ways of working. This is all part of the learning leader upskilling. So we need to upskill ourselves to understand individual preferences and personalization, which AI can help tremendously. The other thing is teams, again. If teams are the new unit of value, you need to understand what are the skills that make a team very successful. So if you have to prioritize some digital learning and development, I would say manager capability, leadership skills available to everyone on how to communicate, how to organize, how to do all this, and really focus on the teams. What are the team effectiveness points that you can help for the organization? So, how do you prepare the learner is about teaching them how important it is. How do you measure all this learning? Is very tricky, but you have engagement surveys. You have skills. I know skills proficiency is a different conversation we need to have, but actually, some reports say self-reporting skills are really as valuable as other research. Now, for technical skills, technology skills, of course, you have certifications. Certifications are really important. But for all other skills, maybe self reporting with manager reporting, team assessments, when you think about team engagement, and skills density, like I said. So the other thing is LMS versus LXPs. The learning management platforms and systems need to be much more integrated. We use them for monitoring, for really creating an operating model for learning. And I understand that's important. But go beyond that. Integrating with your HRIS, integrating with your systems of insights and workforce analytics is a really good thing. LXPs, on the other hand, really focus on the experience of learning. How employees can engage in a platform that knows them, that is much more adaptive, and creates the experience that you want them to have. So, from independent programs in silos, we are creating an integrated journey that is the employee experience. If you think about the employee experience, creating a signature experience is creating a learning journey experience from onboarding to exit. So I leave you with these comments. Collective and community learning is really helpful. So the digital capabilities allows you to put people in cohorts. Coaching circles can work really well, and you can do digitally with the platforms that you have for collaboration. AI is becoming really part of everything. So we should try to give access to people so they can practice um, prompt engineering. They need to learn how to prompt their AI systems, assistants, and agents. So don't forget, you have to focus on curation and partnerships. Don't try to do everything at once because it doesn't work. I will leave you with these comments and I want to hear your questions. I have a few questions here already, but it's very important for the digital world to really work for us. We need to start being discerning about how much we offer people and how much we just add instead of curating and creating a system where we know the workforce, we know the strategy, we know the capabilities, we know the digital capabilities and tools that we can acquire, integration. There's so many integrative Gen AI systems now with your collaboration tools. So collaboration tools that leads to Gen AI prompt engineering is a key skill to have. I think you can be very successful because then you are giving your employees the agency and the empowerment. What I say in the book is distributed power to distributed teams will lead you to incredible solutions. So let's change our mindset and let the collective lead because collectively we are much stronger than individually. I leave with those words and I would love the question. So, Melissa, there's a question here. Let me check the first question. How can we integrate digital learning seamlessly into existing workflows to minimize disruption, encourage participation, especially for remote workers? We have to be smart about this, using agents and assistants like little avatars. Maybe we can help people like in a cohesive way, like every 2 hours, for example. Hey, do you need help with anything? I'm here for you. Something that says and engage people, even make fun of them. Hey, I know it's a lot of work in it. Okay, let's make it simpler. Do you need anything that I can help with? Like, integrating seamlessly is not about being on top of people and prescribing learning. It's about reminding people that learning is available, reminding people that actually they don't need to do everything themselves, reminding people that's not cheating when you're using AI to help you solve big problems and new skills. Now, the other question is looking ahead, how do you think emerging technologies like AI and VR might play a bigger role in upskilling and reskilling? I think it's huge. I think it's huge, but organizations have to make VR equipment as a benefit. Let's be real. Um, you in a remote environment, you cannot keep reusing tools and things like that. So you have to make as a benefit. Give to them the tools that they need because VR, think about VR as an opportunity for people to simulate situations before they get really hairy and difficult. So it's not real time. It's real time just because you feel immersed. Immersive technologies allow you to connect emotionally. So think about creating, and I create some programs like that. The manager program that I created was about people throwing really unexpected questions and unexpected events and situations, and managers have to figure it out. In a VR AI environment, you can do that safely. So really focus on that, but you have to give them the equipment. And upskilling and reskilling is a different question because upskilling is for everybody. Reskilling, you need to focus on those capabilities, on the highest value skills that your organization don't have, because then upskilling, reskilling is more costly. Usually it's $28,000 per person, 90 days usually to really reskill somebody. And that cost is better than losing them. It's better than searching for them in the workplace. So talent acquisition becomes talent access. How do you access talent, not acquire? Because acquisition takes a long time. The last thing I say is, so reskilling, be very surgical because you can reskill everybody. Usually it's 5 to 10% of the organization that you can reskill, and you have to fund those reskilling very appropriately and surgically. People who have skills adjacency are the most likely to evolve to a reskilled role. So think about skills adjacency, performance status, top talent if you're already identified. So focus on the people who with the highest value, with the highest propensity to learn, with the highest skills adjacency, and give them room to move to roles to apply that skill. That's really important. So you see how integrated everything is? All managers have to be in it. And one thing that you have to do is give people freedom to move. So it doesn't matter if they're there for 6 months or a year or 3 years, 5 years. Managers have to be comfortable sharing talent when it's needed because they're going to get talent too when they need it. So, but that's an HR strategy that sometimes we don't see it and we trip on that one because people don't let people go. And that's a mistake. So, with increased digital learning, how can organizations ensure data security, address employee privacy concerns around learning data collection and use? This is really important. We don't have the whole time here, but ethical behavior, is not a law, is not a policy. So start focusing on how to create a culture of ethical behavior from leaders too. Then you start thinking that employees have invested interest in giving information to you about their skills, about what they want, and all that. So there's a shared accountability that actually you can ask in a telemarketplace, for example, is really important for you to give options. Hey, do you allow your skills to be available to everyone in the company? Do you allow your profile to be available to anyone? So you ask those questions to ensure there's an individual making that privacy and data available when they need it and what they need. Like when I did Seller Marketplace, a lot of people didn't want to share when they graduated from school or the school that they graduated with. Fine, it's their choice. But more you give people the chance to really identify what data they can share, that's the way of the future. Is a personalized way of saying, hey, we have a shared accountability here. You give me the information, you give the data. I will be able to give the data that matters the most for your career. The last one, because we are almost out of time and you have a lot to come with the panel. What do you think are the biggest challenges facing HR leaders in talent retention and satisfaction? How can we learning help? Learning is essential, but learning has to get out of their silos. I hate to say that, but I have to. I've been learning management development, learning development for a long time, leadership. You have to get out of the mindset that you control things, you know what the programs that you want to create, and then you become very focused on the programs. Allow learning to become a modality of growth is not an experience of a programmatic experience, it's an experience of growth. And HR needs to bring learning into the fold of strategic HR, creating a dynamic HR strategy, including learning and learning becoming partner of the business. I leave with those words. And Melissa and Nick, I give back to Nick. Thanks so much and enjoy your day.
Great. Thank you again, Wagner, for an excellent keynote. And I want to thank everyone else for joining us today. This session, along with all of today's content, will be available on demand following the event. As a reminder, please be sure to check out the prizes and raffle rules section to see how you can earn points for the chance to win one of several prizes. Our next session will begin at 11:35 a.m. Eastern Time, which will be a panel discussion titled Harnessing Hyper-Personalization to Improve Employee Experiences. Please click the join button that will appear on your screen to be redirected to the next session, and we look forward to seeing you there.